Hey everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood reviewer with InToIt Reviews. We're looking at the KZ ZSN PRO X. In my opinion, this IM has too many descriptors. Pro or X. Make up your mind, KZ. So, needless to say, it can be confusing to say. But, does it sound confusing as well? Let's get into it. To begin, let's start off with a disclaimer for the sake of transparency. I was provided with the KZ ZSN PRO X by Keep Hi-Fi for the price of 11 cents. But I'm not being influenced to say anything by them specifically, and all opinions and recommendations are my own. With that out of the way, let's talk about the build of the KZ ZSN PRO X. This definitely feels somewhat cheaper than the KZ ZAX that I just reviewed. The cable looks the same, but feels slightly stiffer, less soft to the touch, and is more prone to kinking than the ZAX cable. The Y-split is a lot longer, as are the preformed ear hooks. In some ways, when I wear this cable, it reminds me of being a kid and wearing baggy clothing that was too big for me. However, the microphone was nice when tested in calls and on the Discord, and the sound is functionally the same as the ZAX cable, despite its mild aesthetic differences. The shell is composed of a transparent smoked plastic material, the nozzle is on the larger side, and it is comprised of a gold metal material, and the faceplate is also gold, but in its case, it's a plastic covering with raised hash lines and a small vent hole towards the bottom. The IM itself is very comfortable in my ears, and it rests flush with my pinna. The fit here reminds me of the KZ ZSN PRO, but slightly less chunky and even lighter weight as well. In the box, they come with the standard rounded black silicone tip from KZ. These tips sounded mostly fine, but offered a slightly leaner and sharper presentation than the KZ Starline tips that I preferred on this set. Given the price of this earphone, I will note that you're kind of getting a lower quality package here than some of KZ's other current offerings, including something like the KZ ZST X, which came with a slightly softer cable and Starline tips included in the box. Having said that, the sound of these is particularly striking for the cost. The soundstage here isn't the widest at all, but it has tremendous depth and dimensionality within its stage. In terms of KZs, this is the layering champ. They image strikingly well for their cost, both with regard to image distinction and separation. If I had a criticism of its imaging, it would be that its placement is less left to right and more front to back. Because of these characteristics, the KZ ZSN PRO X excelled not only with music, but also with other media files as well. For example, these have been my go-to IM as of late to watch programming on Netflix with. So what's wrong with the ZSN PRO X? Well, its timbre won't be for everyone. These have what I would call Marshall tone. They produce a dry, somewhat flat, warm, dull, and compressed sounding sound signature that is reminiscent of a solid-state Marshall guitar amplifier which would have been introduced in the 1980s or 1990s. While there is something most definitely up with the tonality here, it's not really that offensive either, and its tonality does make it less fatiguing to listen to over the course of a day. The resolution of the ZSN PRO X isn't the greatest either, and in general, I noticed that it's a pretty sensitive IEM as well. However, I will also point out that perhaps because of this, the KZ ZSN PRO X does scale tremendously with amplifier quality. For instance, it sounds so-so on my phone, decent on the Centron Stackport HD, and it practically blows my mind on the Goldnote DS10 Plus, using an iFi IE match as an intermediary. With the right amplification, details are surprisingly great for the price. Transients, decay, and microdynamics are also particular strong points for this IEM. Macrodynamics are decent without ever being overbearing, but it does lack some impact, and large-scale shifts in dynamic range were simply average. The low end here is primarily reliant on a mid-bass presentation. There is some sub-bass here, but also a noticeable roll-off. The bass is neither particularly loose or tight, and it is somewhere in the middle, but it also doesn't resolve as quickly as I would like it to, and there is some notable mid-bass bleed in the mid-range if I am being picky. But, as a theme, I will again not say that this was particularly offensive either. Overall, I would describe the low end as mildly loose. The lower mid-range is less predominant than the upper mid-range, but this is also somewhat thick and full-sounding as an IEM. And again, with the theme here, I did not find this overly offensive either. Treble was relatively smooth for the price and extended decently before a noticeable roll-off. It handled male vocals better than female vocals because of this, as female vocals were noticeably fuzzier and more restricted in range in comparison. Nevertheless, albeit rather warm and dry, there is also a mildly airy characteristic to the upper registry here, but significantly less so than say something like the CCA C10 Pro, which I also recently reviewed. So in the end, I can't really recommend the KZ ZSN PRO X for everyone. You'll have to be able to tolerate its warm and dry timbre, limited stage width, and balanced armature sensitivity. Having said that, it also offers an enjoyable listening experience with limited listening fatigue and is easy to wear over the course of a day. It was also particularly great for streaming TV, video, or other media due to its strength in layering. Furthermore, it scales more with amplification than any $12 earphone reasonably should. And just a reminder guys, at the 1K subscriber mark, I'll be giving away another set of KOS KSC 75s. So make sure to subscribe, like the video, leave some comments, and follow the neighborhood at all its access locations, including Twitter, the blog, on Instagram, or join us in the Discord. And last but not least, consider becoming a Patreon. The Patreon is only $1.50 a month, and it gets you early access to written blog reviews. And with that, I'm out for now.